Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Loose Superfox Show. This is my channel, podcast, and place to hang out with me. So in this week's episode, I want to talk about how to free yourself from addiction and phobia, how to get to the root cause of how these addictions and phobias were created in the first place, and ultimately how to free yourself from the behaviors that you feel are keeping you trapped. Now, if you're ready to take a deep dive, you can join me inside the Heal workshop taking place on the 5th of the 5th at 8 p.m. UK time. You can join us free, live, or on replay by going to loosesuperfox.com/heal. In this workshop, I am going to be diving deep into everything from why societal expectations are keeping you stuck, why your current culture could be keeping you in shame, all the way through to how addictions start, how they stop, and ultimately how to reprogram yourself and release yourself from the chains of the past in order to feel free and design the future. In this episode, I want to talk about how to free ourselves from addiction and phobia. And by that, I'm not talking about I'm going to give you the 12 steps to recovery. But what I do want to share with you inside this is a couple of things that I think have really helped me and my clients, some reframes, some reshifts, some just kind of different ways to look at things within the steps I'm going to give inside the Heal workshop. So first thing, I think a really important concept to grasp is that where you are right now with your addictive tendency, with your addictive behavior, with whatever feels like it's compulsive for you. So something that you're not consciously choosing, something that feels like it's choosing you, or that it has more power over than you have over it, is to know that one, it's not about choice. And I think I talked about this a lot on the last episode. The choice model of addiction, saying that people are choosing these behaviors, is just so flawed as a concept. But I think if we individually as people can witness and recognize that it's not a choice, that it feels unconscious, in the first step, that can help release us from shame. And when we release ourselves from shame, what we actually allow ourselves to do is we give ourselves room to breathe. Because when we're constantly shaming ourselves, we keep ourselves on such a low level of vibration, we keep ourselves on such a low level of the emotional scale that it's very difficult to then have any faith, any belief in ourselves, any trust that we're going to follow through. So if there is one thing that I could share with you, if there was only one thing you ever took away from anything you listened to me, is that freeing yourself from shame, and it's not easy, it's not something you do overnight. You don't just go, oh, I'm free from shame. Great, thanks very much. But doing the work, doing the inner stuff to free yourself from shame will change your entire fucking life. Right? So I want you first to witness and recognize that your addiction is not your fault and it wasn't a choice. And I think this is where I have problems with concepts like the 12-step programs that continue to identify with you continually being an addict, right? Like, hi, I'm a da-da-da and I'm an addict. And actually, I think when we reaffirm something, we attach it to our identity and then it becomes harder to change. So something I firmly disagree with. 12 steps has a place, right? Abstinence has a place. Lots of these things have a place. They're not the only solution. But the first step into freeing yourself from things like addiction and phobia, which are compulsive behaviors to either feel safe and escape or to feel safe and control, is to one, not to shame yourself. Is whenever you find yourself saying, I'm so stupid, why have I done this again? I just can't stop. I'm broken. I'm wrong. Is to take a beat, is to use this podcast as the thing that has brought you awareness to witness and say, I'm just going to take a second. I'm just going to take a second to witness this, to witness what's coming up for me right now. Oh, okay. I'm doing it again. I'm beating myself up. I'm shaming myself. I'm berating myself. And it's not to suddenly change your entire perspective on yourself, but just to take that beat and just take a second to breathe and just witness what comes up. You will be hit with a barrage of negative internal abuse, noises, voices, thoughts, sensations, feelings that feel massively overwhelming. And why I want you to witness these is to recognize that these are the reasons you are addicted or phobic, not you, not the core of you, not the soul of you, not who you actually are as a person. Who you are as a person is not flawed or broken or wrong, but the programming that has been created unconsciously around who you believe you are, around what you believe is possible for you, around the kind of behaviors you have, and your emotional need to compulsively escape or control is what has led to these behaviors. Those noises and voices and sensations and feelings are not you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to notice them. They're not the whole of you. The version of you that has a soul, the version of you that senses purpose, the version of you that laughs and sings and joys. And even if that feels like a lifetime ago when that felt real for you, that version of you exists. That version of you is the real, authentic, highest, fullest version of you. And that noise and those sensations and that frustration and that anger and all those unfelt emotions and experience, they're not you. They're part of you. But the first step to freeing ourselves from these compulsive behaviors that are driven by these unconscious and subconscious programs is first to witness them. And in order to witness them, we have to stop shaming ourselves. We have to stop berating ourselves. And that's easier said than done. I absolutely know it. I still have an inner critic that can be a right bitch sometimes. But just taking a beat can be the first step in doing that to free ourselves from addiction and phobia. The second step is to work with the subconscious and unconscious. If it was about your conscious choice, you would have changed already. If you consciously wanted, if that was what was the swaying figure here, if it was all about conscious choice, you would have done it already, right? But it's not, because conscious choice is only 5% of the equation. We're 5% conscious mind, rational, analytical thinking mind. We're 95% programmed in the subconscious and the unconscious. So that programming is what has led us to where we are now. So granted, where you are now is not an accident, but you did get here unconsciously. And I think so much of the shame comes from believing we got here consciously, and we didn't. And the older you get, the harder it gets. Much like I always use the example of a garage. Like if you don't ever clear out your garage, the older you get, the more full of crap it gets. That's kind of the same with programming. If you're not consciously clearing, releasing, healing on an ongoing basis throughout life, you're going to get to like mid-30s and be absolutely inundated with experiences no longer serve you, bullshit beliefs, trauma that you haven't felt and dealt with. And what's going to happen is you're then going to feel this crushing overwhelm. And I honestly believe for a lot of women, like my volcano theory is, there's only so much one can suppress and then it's going to explode. And I think this is why it happens to a lot of women in perimenopause, in that kind of midlife awakening, midlife crisis vibe. It's because the nervous system just can't take no fucking more. It's done. It's cooked. It's like overwhelmed beyond belief. And so this is where the next step beyond the taking a beat and taking a moment is to get into that unconscious and subconscious. And there are lots of ways to do that. What's really important is that it feels safe for you to do this. And this is where working with practitioners, whether that be therapists or therapists of modalities. So I'm a root cause therapist. So I work with clients on a root cause level. So I'm not looking at your symptoms. I'm not looking at your behaviors. I'm looking at what caused them, what created them, what feelings drove them, what was the thing that made this addiction start in the first place, or what was the root of the phobia in the first place. And not because we have to pick holes in our childhood and try and find all our problems, but because normally if we're able to clear the root, if we're able to clear the foundations, we take out the rest. Much like a house, if you took out the foundations, it would crumble. It's kind of the same thing. If your addictions or phobias or behaviors and patterns are stood on a foundation of a particular feeling, so let's say anxiety or a particular experience that happened or a particular belief that you believe is true about you, and we clear that through looking at the root cause, through allowing ourselves to feel what we really felt, allowing that to clear, and then allowing ourselves to reframe and reprogram, we take out the belief and the behavior. And I have literally seen it happen that fast that behaviors disappear within a couple of sessions for clients. It's not shocking that it's shocking. And what I know for sure is that if you no longer need to escape an emotion, a feeling, or an experience, you will no longer escape. Right? So you'll no longer have the compulsion to emotionally eat or emotionally drink or smoke or whatever your thing is. If you no longer feel unsafe inside of yourself and anxious and like everything's overwhelming and that you're unhappy and that, you know, it's just too much, and then you'll no longer feel the need to control things outside of you in a phobia. And so if you can work with the subconscious and the unconscious, and it's like an onion, right? I use this analogy all the time. You can't go straight to the core. And yes, in root cause therapy, sometimes we end up at the core, but sometimes it's not safe for us to do that. And sometimes we have to go layer by layer. So maybe we can't get to the root cause belief that maybe deeply you don't believe you're good enough. Maybe we have to go through, I'm not worthy of money. And then when we get through clearing, I'm not worthy of money, we get through, I'm not worthy of anything. And then maybe we get through, I'm not worthy of anything, to I'm not loved. And then we get underneath, I'm not loved, we find I'm just not good enough, right? And then we find the source of all our shame and anxiety. Right? And those emotions are then allowed to be felt, dealt, and moved through whilst we reprogram what we want to be true. What happens so much is that the personal development world got a little bit toxically positive in that it became a place where it was all about gratitude and affirmations. And both of those things are really powerful tools when used in the right way. But when we live in a society that says we should be grateful for what we have and we're shamed into an energy of gratitude, anybody who has the smallest shame trigger will actually be shamed into not feeling good enough and not feeling worthy when they write their gratitude list, and will settle and keep themselves small. When we use affirmations, if those affirmations feel safe to our nervous system and they feel like, oh yeah, that's one, logically understandable and emotionally safe, we can move towards a new belief system. But if we're using affirmations as a strategy for trying to grow and create radical quantum leaps, we're not going to be able to do that unless it feels safe to the nervous system. And this is where those as tools are really useful when we've done the root cause clearing work and we've got to the root of the issue. and cleared that root issue, then we're in a position to use those tools to help us reframe the mind, to reprogram the subconscious, and to build safety inside the nervous system. But if the nervous system believes that we are still under threat because anxiety is living like it's alive inside our system, or we're still in danger because we don't feel good enough, and shame is running rampant, feels like through our veins, affirming that you're not anxious and that you're not ashamed of yourself or that you're worthy and you're good enough won't actually change anything. It's literally like polishing a turd. And making yourself do gratitude lists into I should be grateful for what I have makes the shame actually worse. I've used the example of when parents used to say to children, oh, there's starving kids in Africa, finish your dinner. One, nothing to do with fucking anything. What are you going to do? Put it on a plate and send it to Africa? But two, shaming people into changing their behavior has not fucking created anything good. Your addictions and phobias are most likely created at some point by the feeling of needing to escape a shame or needing to escape a core wound like I'm not good enough. So when we shame ourselves about the behaviors that we currently have, or we shame ourselves in any area of our life, we actually make it worse. Oh, I should be getting better. I should be doing this. I should have tried harder. I should have kept going. I should have followed that thing. Whenever you are shoulding yourself, you are shaming yourself. And so I want to free you from this shame right now by saying that when you go to work on the reprogramming of the subconscious and the unconscious, it's not about what you should do. It's not about what the right thing to do is. It's not about what the next thing to do is. It's about what the path of least resistance is. It's about where you're most curious. I literally said this to a client on a discovery call yesterday. I was like, I'm going to send you some options because we had a discovery call and she's got phobias and addictions and, emotional eating and binge eating, and then phobias of random shit. And I was like, okay, and that's very common for the discovery calls I have. It's very similar. And that's not because you're not unique and not special, but because we often find solace in similar things because they're so socially and culturally acceptable. So she's done a lot of work on trying to fix the problems, right? So fix the food problem, fix the phobias, force her way through, manipulate her way through. And I was like, look, that's not got you anywhere, because you're focusing on the symptoms. And that's just like going to the doctor and saying, I've got back pain, and they give you a painkiller. Like, why have you got back pain? Like, let's address why you've got back pain if you're 28. Do you know what I mean? Even if you've got 68, to be honest. So we've got to stop being symptom-led. And so when we're focused on the symptoms of addictive behaviors and phobias, we actually keep ourselves stuck in the cycle of treating and fixing like we have a problem or there's something wrong with us. So the key when we're doing the subconscious and unconscious work is to get to the root. But the way we do that isn't one way, right? It's the path of least resistance. So I said to this client, I said, look, these are the options of where I think we could go next with everything that you've told me and everything I know about you. These are 3 options I have for you. I gave her some free content to watch, the ways I teach, to get a sense of whether or not she'd want to work with me kind of one-to-one. And I said, this is the work, right? So you tell me where you want to go next. And she was like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, you tell me which one resonates most. And she was like, well, aren't you the expert? Shouldn't you just tell me? And I was like, why? So that you can show up feeling like that's what you should do. That's what the right thing to do is. Well, the next thing to do is you can show up in shame and not feel empowered, like you are the person changing your life. I am just the facilitator. You are the person changing your life. And so when we end up in this shame spiral, and this is where I really struggle with the 12-step concept of reaffirming we're an addict and, the level of how much accountability there is to other people, although that has a place. And again, like I said, 12 steps have a place. What's really important is empowering the people who are in recovery from shame, addiction, phobia, whatever it is we're talking about, is actually to be empowering them to be led by the path of least resistance. Now, that is going to be the thing that you're most curious about. That is not going to be the thing that feels easy. And sometimes this is going to be hard. Like, if you've been programmed one way for a really long time, it's going to feel hard to create change. I'm not going to lie to you, right? Withdrawal's real on a chemical level, an emotional level. Even withdrawal from people pleasing feels like you're silently screaming. Literally. You could be addicted to people pleasing, by the way, my friends. You can be addicted to any behavior. You could be addicted to emotions. I could do a whole podcast on being addicted to being a grumpy person or being addicted to being a victim, because on a chemical level, it's a cycle that you are in that feels normal. And that is why change is so fucking hard. So I'm not saying that change won't be hard, but it's normally the thing that you're most curious about. So by me prescripting what someone needs to do and what they need to follow means that they're not taking their power back. And the hugest part of freeing yourself from addiction and phobia and things that are about control and safety is actually you deciding that this is what you want. Because if you don't decide as what you want, and if you're not in the energy of I fucking want this, not how bad do you want it, not any of that bullshit, but if you're not in the energy of like, I'm ready either to surrender and let it go, and from that energy, or you're not there from the energy of I want this, this is what I want, like I truly desire this, it won't fucking work. It won't matter what you do, it won't fucking work, right? Because the one human emotion that will keep going, no matter how much shame you feel, no matter how much anxiety you feel, no matter how, is desire. Desire is the biggest human emotion. And so if we don't actually want the change, you can buy all the programs and do all the things, but nothing will actually change, right? And so I'm not going to say to you it's going to be easy, but it is about what the path of least resistance is. So if you're here, there's likely something about the way I teach or what I teach that you're curious about, that's different, that's interesting, that resonates. You know, a lot of my clients said to me lately, by the way, I really appreciate, you know, the humor, your selective swearing. I was like, selective? It's like all the time. You know, I really appreciate your like a ray of sunshine, all these lovely compliments, which is wonderful. But I just said, the thing is, those, you wouldn't be here unless you had that within you, because you can't resonate with anything that doesn't resonate with you, right? And so the reason why these people are resonating with my level of humor or the sarcasm I have or the way I teach, or they're resonating with my joy, is because that is a resonant frequency within you. And so if there is something about me that you resonate with, that you connect with, maybe I'm the path of least resistance to help you heal. Maybe my heal workshop is the thing that's going to fucking change it all for you. And again, if you haven't already registered, you can do that at lucysuperfox.com/heal, and it's totally free on the 5th of May, live or replay. So creating freedom is about stepping into our autonomy in a small way by being led by what we're most curious about. Like if you're curious about fucking EFT, I do that. If you're curious about getting to the root, I do that. If you're curious about just doing more like talk therapy, I do that, right? If you're curious about doing like salsa dancing as a way to express yourself, I don't do that. I don't teach that, right? But that doesn't mean that's not what you should go do, because it's always about what you're curious about and what resonates. And so this is where with healing, there isn't like one fucking prescriptive journey. There are steps for sure. And they're the steps I'm going to break down inside the Heal workshop. But those steps are not just the 12 steps, right? The 12 steps is a program, it's a protocol, it has a place, right? Sometimes abstinence will be a step that's required in every addiction or phobia, right? But those steps are all about when you are ready to take those steps, not the list of steps that someone else gives you or says you should do, but it's about you deciding that you are ready to do this for you. And so in your unconscious and reprogramming of your unconscious and subconscious, you are the determining factor. And that's where, and again, this is not about me saying you should be changing. Change if you want to change, don't if you fucking don't, right? So if you're here and you're like, I want this, I'm ready, I want this. And readiness is a strange word, because people always say to me, you're never ready, you're never ready to have a baby, you're never ready to get married, it's never a good time. I'm like, sure. But I still think there's a sense of, yeah, this is my next step. There's a sense of, it's what needs to happen now. And so maybe ready isn't the word, but there's a sense of desire or resonance or connection with the words that I am speaking to you. That is an indication that now is your time. So those steps to freeing yourself. One is to release yourself from the shame of what you should do. The right thing to do is the next thing to do is that you're a terrible person, that you're wrong, or that you're broken. And first of all, the first step to doing that is to taking a zoom out, to taking a beat, to just taking a second to witness the constant ongoing narrative inside your mind and witness that that is not you. It's not the whole of you. It's part of you. It's a driving, determining factor of your addictions and phobias, but it is not the whole of you. Secondly, is to be doing that work to reprogram what's happening in the subconscious and the unconscious, both at the level of the narratives of the mind and in the nervous system. And I'm going to be diving into more what detail that kind of includes and what you should be thinking about, or could be thinking about, using my own words, what could be thinking about inside the Heal workshop. And 3 is to follow the path of least resistance, or where you're most curious, because that will normally be the thing that you can keep. You almost build your own dopamine reward system with something like the thing that you're most curious about. We've lived in a world that is built on reward and punishment. I grew up to a world that was like, you're a good girl if you do this and you're a bad girl if you do that. And so addiction and phobia tends to be, especially addiction tends to be, I'm good if I don't have addiction and I'm bad if I do have addiction. Or I'm good if I'm addicted to hustle and overworking, but I'm bad if I'm addicted to sugar and chocolate. I'm good if I'm addicted to people pleasing and making everyone else happy, but I'm bad if I do something for myself. And this reward punishment concept is what's got us stuck. It's got us all over the shop, got us disconnected from our own desires. And it's got us caught in a place where we're reaching outside of ourselves, either to escape or control. in order to feel safe, because we weren't taught what it means to feel safe inside of ourselves by clearing emotions, by processing them, by feeling them, and then by reprogramming what it means to be us, what it means to be who we want to be, what it means to, desire something. We weren't taught any of that shit in school, right? Or by our caregivers. And I know there are parents who are doing that now. And for that, I am eternally grateful and thankful to you for taking the time to be those trauma-informed parents and to be focused on the development of not just your own children, but the next generation. So freeing yourself from addiction and phobia includes releasing shame, reprogramming not just what you do on terms of behavior, symptoms, and action, but reprogramming what's happening in the subconscious and unconscious through processing feelings and healing trauma. And 3, by following the path of least resistance, where you feel called, where you feel connected, and where you feel resonant in those modalities. So if you're ready to dive deeper, to find out more, to explore some of the other options and what you could do to heal your addictive tendencies, patterns, or indeed heal those phobias too, then you can join me inside the Heal workshop on the 5th of May at 8 p.m. UK. You can register for free to join me live or grab the replay by going to lucysuperfox.com/heal. So in future episodes, I'm sure there'll be more on this. I'm definitely going to talk about being addicted to emotional states and what it means to be caught in cycles of emotional patterns and behaviors that they feel so real, they feel like they're us. So I cannot wait to see you on the next episode in Inside the Heal workshop, and I'll see you on the next episode.